Runaway. In case you're new to my channel, here's a quick mini history of the Crow's Nest Railroad. I drew up a plan in the summer of 2020 for a ride-on train around my home at our small urban property. 1 inch to the foot scale would be needed for the necessary tight curves and lighter weight equipment I could easily handle. That winter, I purchased a used 5-inch gauge coal-fired steam engine in need of some restoration. In the summer of 2021, the first shovelfuls of soil started the process of carving out a potential roadbed. I began video recording the weekly progress. You can search back through the episodes under the Backyard Railroad playlist on this channel. While some general landscaping was going on, I decided to build the first piece of rolling stock. That August, 11 tons of ballast rock were dumped on my driveway. Let the shoveling begin. Now it was time to build track panels and prepare the ground for smooth, flat track work. A couple more cars would also get built. I added a small bridge, along with a combination tunnel and car barn. Oh, and I almost forgot, Little Rodney, my daily driver electric locomotive project, was finished as well. The last bit of track to complete a circle had to go across my driveway and be portable. In the spring of 2022, 8 months after the yard work began, the final golden spike was put in. Hi, welcome back. Well, a little bit of a history there. This is the Crow's Nest Railroad, and it's a beautiful morning today, but I want to talk about a couple things that are related. We'll get back to that runaway in just a second, but I need to talk about kind of a nasty derailment that I had the other day, plus adding some brakes to my engineer driving car. So let's get right to it. So this area in here is fairly steep. It's 2.5% and 3% grade in some sections, and so that does get your attention. So that's a fairly steep little grade for a small engine like this. So as I come up the hill, I have to be moving. As long as I'm moving when I enter the hill, I haven't had any wheel slip problems, even maxing the load out on this thing. Going downhill, that's another story. On my little electric locomotive, I have a toggle switch here for braking, and it's not regenerative braking that occurs in the speed control module. It simply cross wires the electric motors. So if I reduce throttle and I'm still going downhill and this is rolling, the electric motors are acting like little mini generators, and they're feeding back reverse polarity against themselves, and so I get braking. So what I've got here is basically bicycle technology with a brake lever and the cable which goes down under and connects to the trucks. Now all this relates to a fairly colossal derailment that I had recently. Most of the derailments that I have here on the Crow's Nest Railroad tend to be backing up through a tight curve with a really light wagon behind. So you can see here I've got a little piece of masonry in there just to give it a little bit extra weight for tracking. The flanges on the wheels on a 5-inch gauge railroad are pretty small. There's just not a lot of margin for error. So I've got some tight turns here, and a really lightweight car can just as easily back straight up as going around the curve. So I have to remember to go slow and make sure the cars have some preliminary weight on them. So these two things are related. The downhill kind of runaway situation without braking, and a rather colossal derailment going forward that I had recently. And to understand how the two are related, let's flip this car over so it's belly up and we can see what's going on. These trucks come standard with brake shoes already rigged up, and you can see I've got a little wire here, and I have looped the wire through these bars here and held them tight against the center. The brake shoes are not touching the wheels at all. When it comes, there's a rod like this that's connected over here and loops under here, and this is where the actual brake wire would go in that would spread these open and allow the brakes to rub on the wheels, the brake shoes. Well, what happened on my rather colossal derailment going forward, which was a total surprise, that just hardly ever happens. This had come loose because I was fiddling with the car and moving it and dumping it and re-railing it. This came loose and stuck down like that. That thing jammed against the tie, and it was one of those cartoon derailments where like the car stays and the driver goes flying forward, because this thing had jammed into the ground and it was a colossal stop. So I thought, well, we shouldn't let that happen too many times. So I pulled these rods off of both these sets of trucks because I'm not using brakes on this particular car anyway. So I tied these back out of the way, and these can move freely, and I don't have a deadly dead man's spike that can stick in the ground and cause problems. So let's flip the other car over and we can take a look at the actual brakes. So this truck is just like on the other wagon, where I've got the brakes defeated. They're wired, always open, so nothing can move around. And I just have one truck braked on this engineer wagon. So here you can see the cable coming in, and I will activate it with a lever and you can see what happens. And on the rare occasion when I do have to park on an incline, I can use just the good old-fashioned stick, slide it in the middle of the truck, and I'm all set and parked. Well, you could see, although there was no disaster at the bottom of the hill on that sharp turn with that empty car, I would not want to go shooting down there with passengers on board and a little too fast for that sharp turn. That could be disaster. Well, currently I've got some electric brakes on the locomotive and then the backup manual brakes on the engineering car, and that should work fine for right now. And if I have to park on the hill, like I just said, I can slip a stick in there because nothing currently can be locked into place like an emergency brake. And hopefully, now that I've got all of the unneeded brake shoes tied back out of the way with no dangerous connecting rods, I shouldn't have any more of those colossal derailments going forward. Well, this is Stan saying thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you can join me right here next time. Got a project in the garage waiting. I'm working on cabinet doors today, so I'm going to take off. See you later.